Hello and thank you for joining us. My name is James Turner and I'm the External Communication Specialist here at Lifeways. Today I'm joined by the absolutely lovely Clive Pullen. Clive, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you, James. Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate you taking
My
some
pleasure.
time out. We're here today to talk about your journey into social care, into Lifeways. Talk to us a little bit about your job role right now. How long have you been with the company for?
Okay, so been with the company for 5 years. My current position is Regional Quality Manager for the Mental Health Division. I'm 9 months into that at the moment. Social care, only 8 years. Before that, I was in hospitality for best part of 20 years.
Fantastic. And talk to a bit more detail about what your general role includes on a day-to-day basis.
I still feel very, very new in my position. Every day is still very much a learning curve. So I support all the services within the mental health division, the registered managers, the service managers, in delivering compliance against local authority contracts, CQC contracts, inspections, I should say, and supporting the rollout of new procedures, new technology. Nourish at the moment is a big part of my responsibilities. And I support the other RQMs and other support functions in around compliance, Nourish, and many other little bits and bobs.
Fantastic. So obviously you just mentioned that you've come from a hospitality background. What's the background there? I mean, I'm a former bartender, and from what I've heard outside, I'm going to like the story.
Okay, so all starts when I went to college. I went to a agricultural college, lived on site, and got a part-time job in the college kitchens. I was 17. That progressed into work in the student union bar. Went on to university in Greenwich, and worked part-time in local pubs, hotels, etc. When I finished uni, I joined, I'm not sure whether I can mention the company, so I won't, joined one of the large top 3 UK pubcos as a trainee assistant manager. Fell into it. That was not my plan. And I progressed to a general manager within about 18 months, running pub restaurants and some, I won't mention the brand again, some hotels, a couple of hotels. And then from there, became self-employed for a couple of years, and then went back to one of the large national pubcos as the general manager in pub restaurants. So that ended up being about 20 years, majority of which was the licensee general manager. And I guess a bit of a midlife crisis when I was turned 40. I thought, I can't really carry on with the hours and the work-life balance being completely work-orientated. Had a young family at the time. So I took the leap and resigned from a well-developed career, well-paid, good salary, lots of perks, bonuses, free accommodation, and became a healthcare assistant on minimum wage. My wife at the time, supportive but confused. But I think I've said it to people before, as part of being part of the solution instead of the problem, because in the pub environment, hospitality environment, the development of staff had become second place to profit, and problems within societies, particularly around licensed trade, around alcoholism, the drug use. And I was behind the bar selling alcohol, and it was enough. It was time for a change.
What was that transition like? Because that is a tremendous move as well, putting 20 years behind you as well.
Yeah, big move, but also the position that I had at the time, I was living above the business with my family, two young kids at the time, the wife. So we not only did I walk away from a job and a career and a good salary, I walked away from a home, and the house that we owned, we had let out as well, so we couldn't just easily go back to that. And we were in a different town to where the house was, and the kids were established in school. So it's huge upheaval, and it's scary. And I think you have to get to the right stage in your development to realise what the path that you're still on, whether that's the right path to carry on, and to realise all the lessons that you learn on that journey, what you can move forward and take the other fork in the road. And you have to be certain. I first thought about moving into social care when I was 30. I finally did it 12 years later at 42. So it's a process. But I think for me, I had a customer in the business that I was running at the time who was a registered manager in a elderly care home. I spoke with him, and fortunately for me, he gave me my first opportunity as a HCA, and then he left that business. I stayed. I got a qualification, got the NVQ level 3 in health and social care over about 18 months. And then I moved from that. I actually took some time off and watched the World Cup, the Rugby World Cup, not football, and watched that for the 6 weeks when it was in Japan. And then January 2020, I think, just before COVID, I joined a care agency supplying staff to all the local care homes. I joined them as a manager, and then by June their business was pretty much hibernating because of COVID. Applied to join SIL, as it was then, so Supported Independent Living, which is now part of Lifeways mental health division, as a support worker. Joined that 14th of July 2021, and the rest is history. There you go.
Fantastic. I mean, that is just an incredible story as it is. Just picking up on one of the points that you mentioned earlier about living above the pub or the bar. Just as a former bartender, like I've already mentioned, I've now met a few landlords, met a few, some of the people in that position. What did you actually find it kind of like hard to escape that environment?
So difficult. People would say running a pub, restaurant, hotel, it's a lifestyle. It's not a career. It's not a job. It is blood, sweat, and tears. I think I was probably the last generation of licensees that would still consider themselves to be landlords. And I was on the cusp between being a landlord and becoming a general manager, retail manager. And it's really quite difficult to separate work from home. And I didn't realise how... I knew that I was pretty stressed out towards the end of my time in that industry. 20 years, I would say 15 years of it was superb. It fitted into what I wanted from life. And then, wife, kids come along, things change, and your expectations of quality of life changes as well. So when I didn't realise how much it impacted on the family life until really recently. My son's now just turned 20. A couple of months ago, we're having a bit of a heart-to-heart, and he really resents the fact that he grew up above a business. And he resents the fact that mum and dad were always at work. And we would, at the time, so he would have been 12, I think, or maybe 10 when we left the business. And his memories are full of resentment. And that's not a nice thing to hear from your son. And he says that he felt a lot of responsibility over his sister, who's 3 years younger, because me and his mum would have been downstairs at work or popping up, having a split shift, lovely 3 hours between 3 and 6 every day of the week, to go upstairs and have a life in between shifts doesn't really work. And I think me and their mum at the time, we thought good salaries, a roof over our heads, 3 nice holidays a year, a mortgage and a house rented out was us doing the right thing. And I don't think either one of us realised the impact it had on us and our quality of life, but also the impact on the kids. So now, life moves on, life changes. I became a single dad 3 years ago nearly. The kids are with me full time. And the question is, how would life be as a single dad in a pub business? I would say it would be terrible.
I imagine quite stressful.
Yeah, and so everything in life happens for the right reasons at the right time. We don't always see what the outcome's going to be. And you just got to be open to it and embrace it and enjoy the challenge as and when they come.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I mean, fast forwarding, you've moved into social care. What drove that? Obviously, social care in particular. That's not the most common move, we'll say.
No, I guess not. You got to go back a long way, really. My mother was a mental health nurse. All of my childhood, she's now retired happily. And my father was also a mental health nurse. And my sister became a mental health nurse. So it was in the family home. It was one of my oldest memories was to go to the local Victorian built institution as a kid to wait for my mum to finish work. And I would be sat in a reception area seeing some weird and wonderful things going on, knowing that was perfectly fine and normal. And being the sort of one of the major employers locally, I grew up in Basingstoke in Hampshire. The institution was Park Pruitt. It's now housing development. But a lot of kids, this would have been in the 80s, would go there for fates and family fun days. And you would be, because it was a parkland type estate, woodland, cricket pitch, football pitches, and so on and so forth. And some really wonderful people. And families used to go there for the fate. So I guess that sort of, it becomes part of who you are when you're brought up by parents that work in that sector. And then at the same time, when you have an opportunity to work in that sector at 16, 17, as I did, went to an open day with the NHS, and I rebelled because my parents were both part of the NHS. My sister was as well. So I did the second best option at the time, which was my enjoyment of the countryside. So I went to a local agricultural college to do woodland management. And then that opened up to conservation and ecology, and then that went on to my degree in environment science. So, and then I fell into hospitality, like a lot of people do. So I think the foundation was being brought up by the parents that I was brought up by. Bit of rebellious nature against falling into that industry, education, part-time work, then falling into industry that I was successful at, progressed quickly, had all the trappings of that industry and the success that I had, and then the realization there's more to life than a bottom line and delivering against a P&L for the benefit of shareholders, and definitely not the benefit of the employees. I probably shouldn't say that, and definitely not for the benefit of the customers in the long term. And that's why I came to social care, in my blood, but also the sense of needing to have more of a purpose, more of a positive impact on individuals, but society as a whole.
Now, looking back on it, what has been the most rewarding part of this move for you? Give us a bit of an anecdote of maybe a person you've met.
There are so many stories of individuals in individual situations. I don't know whether this is relevant, but this is pre-Lifeways, where I first became a HCA, healthcare assistant. I was working in an elderly care home, and my first end of life experience. And there was a lady that was a teacher in a very private school in Somerset. Don't have very close connection with her family, and she actually asked and requested of me to be the sole person at end of life with her. So that was quite daunting, but absolute honour and privilege to be there with her, talking absolute rubbish with her for about 4 hours, one-way conversation, you can imagine. But that will stay with me forever. Being that person to not validate, but acknowledge her life and her passing, and for her to have that connection with me, someone half her age, from very different backgrounds, and for her to allow me to be part of that part of her life. And this sounds weird as well, but it was funny, it was humorous, because she was, and she had me going a couple of times where I thought she had gone, and then all of a sudden there was another breath. So that's something in elderly care that I will always hang on to. Now in mental health, as a support worker, as a service manager, every single day there is something that challenges you physically, something that challenges you emotionally. And when you finish that day and you can go home, walk home, and you can take the lessons that you've learned from that experience and roll them forward into the next day, I think that's quite unique in social care. Certainly unique in mental health, because it's only the past 5 years since I've been with Lifeways that's been the true of the saying about learning something new every single day. And that's 5 years on, even today, sat in this strange room, talking about myself, which is really unnatural for me. It's something new every single day. And I'm learning something new by being here today. I learned loads yesterday. I know for a fact, not tomorrow because it's Saturday, but Monday I'm going to be learning so much more. And that's what I've enjoyed about Lifeways and the 5 years that I've been with the company. Every single day, and it sounds like a cliche, but every single day is a learning curve. I learn something new, and I can have an impact based on all my learnings for the past 5 years, but also the past 25 years of work, and that I can see that impact and feel that impact daily when I'm sat opposite someone that we support, or I'm supporting a service manager to support the people they support. I get that. I know I can just, it's in my heart, I guess, in my being, that I know that I'm having a positive impact, and that's great.
Brilliant. That's actually a really nice segue as well. I mean, what I was going to ask, why Lifeways? What was it about the organisation that first drew you to it?
So at the time, the advert that I actually applied for was SIL, which was a part of Lifeways, but a distinct, separate organisation within the umbrella of Lifeways. So when I first applied, I thought I was applying for this small company called SIL, supporting independent living, mental health recovery, and that sort of ballooned into the whole organisation being reorganised into 3 distinct divisions. That's a really difficult question, because I had always, in hospitality, I had always worked for one of the big three or big five pubcos and hotel companies. And going from that sector into social care, I had worked for a small local care company that had one care home. And then moving over to Seal, it didn't really matter who that company was. It was more about the opportunity that they would provide me. And then when I joined the company, I spent some time in other sites in the southwest, whilst the building I was going to end up working in was being developed. And then the sort of Seal universe opened up to me. And then on the back of that and seeing the opportunities, I became deputy service manager within 3 months of joining Seal. 18 months later, I was the service manager. And at that point, at every step of the way, you realise how big the umbrella of Lifeways is and was. And then 18 months ago, 2 years ago, when the divisions were formed, all of a sudden you realise how huge of a company it is within the UK and how diverse the support is, and how important, how diverse the opportunities within the company are as well. So why Lifeways? I guess really, if I'm honest, I stumbled into Lifeways, and I'm glad it was the right trip in the right direction.
That's what I like to hear. I think it was a similar approach for myself. If you were about to talk to someone who might be in a similar position as you found yourself, they're in the hospitality sector, that say they may be experiencing the same kind of feelings that you might have felt at the time, and there's a bit of pressure from targets and from upper management, let's say.
Yeah.
What would you say to them?
I would say pick up the phone. I would say email. Look for your local Lifeways service and try and make contact with them. Go to the website, all the sites, all the services listed there. If you want to have an informal conversation, maybe go and pick up the phone, speak to the service managers, and just introduce yourself and see whether they've got time for a coffee. Because if I had the opportunity, which I did way back when, but not in Lifeways, if I had the opportunity, if someone rings me now and says, Clive, I'm thinking about joining you, right, let's go have a coffee, let's talk. And then the website, and obviously there's the recruitment site within the website, or the connection or the contact details there. But if you walk past a Lifeways service every day on your way to work and you think, what goes on in that building, go ring that doorbell and ask, and you'll be welcome to have a conversation. That's what I would do. That's what my suggestion would be. Pick up the phone, knock on the front door, go to the website, ask the question, talk about who you are, where you're finding yourself at the moment, whether you're in a management position, whether you're a bartender, whether you kitchen KP. Everyone's got something to offer.
Clive, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for the opportunity, and if anyone wants to talk about joining Lifeways, I'm sure you can find my phone number somewhere.